Hi everyone, Clovis here from KinematicLAB. Here is our new motion graphic tool called Atom. That's a plexus-like effect object which is driven by particle flow. You can do exactly what you want with pflow and then use the Atom plugin to create the connections between the particles. So first you create your Atom object, you align it in the world 0, 0, 0, then you pick your PF source object. And you can already see some spheres and lines created on the particle positions. They are generated by Atom. You can disable the spheres here and use the pflow shapes if you prefer, or if you want to use different shapes than spheres. Okay, let's go back with the basic spheres here. Then here on the lines group, you can change the number of connections per particle. So here I asked 3 connections, but I can change this number and nothing is changing in the viewport. That's because Atom will look around each particle and see if it finds the number of connections wanted here within the given distance limit, which is here. So it look around 10 units around this particle, for example, and see if it can find 7 connections. Obviously it can't, so if I increase this number it will look around, let's say 80 units, and see if it can find 7 connections. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. So even if you ask for, I don't know, 20 connections, if it only finds 2 or 3 in the distance, okay, it will connect only the number it finds. Okay, so now you can change the radius and the number of sides of these lines, which are basically cylinders. So I can change the number of sides. Extra the radius. And you have the same options for the spheres. You can change the radius, the number of segments. Don't forget that if you want to use higher meshes or different meshes than these little spheres, you should use the one provided by pflow. Okay. Now if I play the animation, you see that during this animation the particles are not that close than in the beginning. So if I want more connections happening here, I have to increase the distance. Okay, I will increase a bit the radius. Now you can see that they don't have all the same radius. Some of them are thicker than the others. That's because the smooth disappear option is enabled. So what it does is that it decreases the radius of the lines the more you get close to the distance limit. So it tends to look more natural, more organic. Like that. If I remove this option, that's great too, but just a bit different. The random option here changes the connections at each frame and chooses in all the particles found in the distance limit. So here in a distance of 200 units, if it finds, I don't know, maybe 50 particles around, it will change on each frame between these 50 particles. And now if I enable this limit option, it will still change on each frame, but it will look only for the first five particles, the first 5 closest particles, sorry. Okay, now you have some faces options. The face acts exactly like the lines. It creates triangles between 3 particles in a search distance. So I asked here for 1 face per particle, but the search distance is only 10 units, so if it doesn't find three particles in this distance, I should increase this. They can have a different search distance than the lines, okay? But you can never have a higher number of faces than the found lines, okay? So if I reduce the search distance for these lines, okay, it will also reduce the number of faces, as well as if I ask for, let's say, 5 faces in the same search distance, and if I reduce the number of lines, it will reduce the number of faces as well. Okay, let's remove these faces. Now you have here another set of options called line meshes. So you can pick an external mesh, okay, to replace the lines. That's what is great with having this effect inside a 3D environment. So let's use this box, okay. When you use an external mesh like that, it has to be vertical, okay, with a pivot point as its base. Then you pick it using this button, okay, and you enable this option. So it replaces completely all the lines by this object, okay. The great thing is that it's sort of instances, okay, so you can do whatever you want on this object. It will be reproduced here. Okay, so anything you do here is happening here, even if you animate this object. You have also access to the same radius option. Basically, it controls the scale X and Y of the source object. And you have some options to control the rotation, but I will pick a different object to show you that. You can pick a spline, for example, and it uses the rendering option of the spline. So if you change the number of sides, it will happen here, as well as the thickness, and the interpolation as well. But don't use too high values, just because that's an object and you can eventually smooth it, so don't use too high meshes. So I wanted to show you the rotation options. So you have different axes, okay? So how Atom works is a lot like a look at constraint. So it starts from a particle, it look at another particle, okay? But it needs an up vector to make it look like the right direction and make it rotate. So you can rotate the object itself, it will rotate the copies, okay? But you can change the up axis, which is happening on top of that. So for example, with this z-axis connected and this orientation, it looks like a cobweb. You can make it look like a different direction if you want. If you choose random direction, they are random, obviously, but you can also pick an up node object. You can pick anything you want. So this will happen per line. And you can animate this upnode object. You can animate all these values as well during the animation. So if you want at start having less connections, let's say you want to have 3, and later here you want to have more connections, just have to increase this value. So everything you want to animate, you can animate it. You can change the search distance. Let's say I want to reduce it. And then increase it. Okay. Now another great thing is that you can apply a multi-material, multi-sub-object on this plugin. So I made 3 IDs multi-sub-object. I will apply to it. The first ID is for the spheres. Okay. The second one is for the lines, right? And the third one obviously is for the faces. And also, because that's geometry, as I said earlier, you can apply some modifiers on it. So here, turbo smooth, or you can deform it using a bend. It will happen on top of the particle animation, so it can make weird things because the mesh is changing. You can move the object, scale it, rotate it. It will continue to follow what the particles are doing. That's it. I hope you liked it. Let me know if you want to know more. And if you want to buy it, go to www.KinematicLAB.com. See you later. Bye bye.